There's two main groups of people who are still going to mask up as you walk around town. Cult members and the mentally ill. To put it bluntly. Maybe that's a bit harsh. Let me tone it down a bit. There's two main groups of people who are still wearing masks. First group, people who are projecting their political allegiance, and that's what the mask is to them. You can call them science deniers. People who still cannot do anything that Trump ever said to do or any conservative would do. That's the cult member group. And then the second group are those who want to hide behind a mask because they have a mental illness. I don't know how to sugarcoat that one. So you have cult members and the mentally ill. So let's break these two groups down. The first one, cult members. The mask has turned into a cult symbol to yourself and to others. It was something that was worshipped. It was a virtue signal to others of look how woke I am, look how brave, look how caring I am. You don't care about grandma, I do. It became so deeply embedded and ingrained into who we are in our daily life. You can't expect people who do something with such religious fervor to immediately just turn it off like it never happened. Because it never had anything to do with science. There was no science ever about it, right? No science was ever in their thought wearing it. So of course science now is not going to have anything to do with their behavior today. Right? It was always irrational. The same people who said, oh, I was in the grocery store the other day, I didn't wear a mask, like a week ago, and said I didn't wear a mask, and the manager's like, oh, the CDC says. CDC says you gotta wear a mask. CDC says, the CDC says, the CDC says. Okay, well now the CDC says you don't. And those same people, you think today they're like, oh, okay, great, no more mask. Thanks, CDC. No. They're never gonna admit it. They're gonna stick with it. They're gonna stay with it. They're gonna come up with every excuse they can. Those same people are now saying, well, what does the CDC know? You know, they're just a bunch of political, they just did it for political reasons, not scientific reasons. Right, are you with me? And on top of the virtue signaling, you also have pride. And this is another segment for another day, but no one wants to ever admit they're wrong. It's one of the strongest human nature forces that exists. No one wants to admit they're wrong. And then you throw the politics on top of that. So a Democrat or whoever would have to admit, I was wrong about the masks. And those Neanderthals of Texas and Florida were right all along. Like, no Democrat's gonna say that. So the same people who worshiped the CDC last week are now saying, oh, can you believe how reckless the CDC is? All right, so that's cult members. That's political allegiance. That's the first main group of people who are still wearing masks. Never and not at all based on science. The second group, the mentally ill. This has a range to it. Let's start with sort of the more moderate version of this mental illness. This is Rachel Maddow on MSNBC.
When I was talking to people today about this new guidance and what to ask her, everybody had very personal feelings about it, and I realized I did too in all these questions. Part of it is that I feel like I'm gonna have to rewire myself so that when I see somebody out in the world who's not wearing a mask, I don't instantly think you are a threat, or you are selfish, or you are a COVID denier, and you definitely haven't been vaccinated. I mean, we're going to have to rewire the way that we look at each other, because the CDC's guidance, which she just told me, we are sure, is that if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask except in very specific circumstances. And so that means as we change that as a country, we are going to look at each other differently and have to unwire our preconceptions about what a mask or a lack of a mask means.
That was never healthy thinking, right? You're a threat. You're a denier. You're selfish. It was never a good wiring that, as she says, we need to now rewire. When I say mentally ill, I don't mean that rudely. I mean that quite literally. If you're one major group of people are people who have a mental illness, anxiety disorder, depression, an addiction, and mask wearing at this point for many people, it's a type of mental illness. Read an article this weekend from The Guardian. The Guardian has a headline here interviewing different people who still wear masks even after vaccinated. And the headline talks about how it's an invisibility cloak. They interviewed a 46-year-old professor who said it's been such a relief to feel anonymous as she walks around the city. She said it's like having a force field around me that says, don't see me. That's messed up. That's not healthy to want to walk around with an invisibility cloak and a force field that says, don't see me. They interviewed a 44-year-old woman in Los Angeles. Said wearing a mask in public, even after she's been vaccinated, gives her a kind of, as she put it, emotional freedom. She says, I don't want to feel the pressure of smiling at people to make sure everyone knows I'm friendly and likable. It's almost like taking away the male gaze. There's freedom in taking that power back. That's not good. Read an article from a Singapore newspaper written in 2009, and it was about people in Japan who wear masks. So Asian countries, mostly Japan, Korea, and China, they've been wearing masks, surgical masks, for a long time, particularly younger women, or women, I should say. But it's been around for a long, long time. And this article was about in Japan and people who wear these surgical masks for no reason whatsoever, and they have a name for it. It's called mask dependency. This was written in 2009, right? So people are addicted to wearing their mask. They can't go outside without one, even if there's no reason. And there's a lot of reasons why Asian cultures do, and there's a whole segment about Taoism and like your chi is your breath and your air, and there's like this whole like Eastern medicine about your breath and the importance of not breathing in toxic, whatever. So that's why they wear these masks. And there's a lot of pollution over there, and they bring up even stuff about like pollen and allergies. Okay, fine. So maybe there's legitimate reasons to wear a mask. There's not, but let's just say there's. But this article is about people who just wear it even if those things aren't even true. They just wear them as a security blanket. It's a security blanket. They can't go outside without it. They can't interact with other people unless they're hiding behind their mask and someone else is hiding behind theirs. I joke about that tiny disease vector child that we played up at the top of the segment here. But think about how much we're messing up that kid by telling him that, oh, son, we don't have to wear masks, but you can't go outside. You can't go around other people without covering half your face up. It's messed up.
Wow, that was deep and insightful. I want more of that. Like,
Subscribe. Get more.